sunny day, warm, beautiful out, can only really mean one thing. It's time for the Snapchat specs. I really like using these things, even though they're not very popular, but they're a lot of fun. It's just public speaking if I like post these and I'm just talking, but you can't see me. I'm not sure. Hello, how are you? I'm good. It's a nice spring day. Yeah. Nice guy. Likes to chat. Oh, time across the street and die. See, almost died right there. Woo. Okay, important stuff now. Oh, it is good to be in the office. Whew, that was a lot of stuff to do, but you have a busy day, so you completely understand where I'm coming from. But it's pretty windy outside, but we're gonna go try to shoot outside anyway. But you might be wondering, we have to make a lot of videos and recordings. Why hasn't he done anything? And I do have an answer for that, and I think you're gonna like it. The actual real excuse of why I haven't done these videos is that you guys are killing it. The videos and the podcasts I've been making have been excellent. Nobody's failed one. Nobody's made a terrible grade. All the work that I'm seeing on your end has been really good. And that causes a problem for me because I was expecting to make some videos about every couple of weeks to kind of help you get better. But you're already pretty good. So what can I make a video about? There are certain things you guys are doing that are great, and those are the hardest things to teach, so it makes my job easier. I thank you very much for that. But there's a lot of things you guys are doing. Style, delivery, other things that make a speech good that you guys just aren't really getting there. You guys are doing all the stuff that's impossible to teach well, but the stuff that you're needing help on is difficult because of, well, just the nature of it. Think about it like this. I assign a speech for you to do. You're supposed to film yourself, or you are supposed to record a podcast on anchor.fm, and that's great, but it's not great because you still think it's an assignment. So when you go to record it, you're like, I'm doing an assignment for class, I have to make sure it's good for class, and the sound of it and the production of it sounds like you're doing an assignment. I mean, this might come as a surprise to you, but nobody on the internet wants to listen to someone do an assignment for a class. They want to hear something engaging and exciting and interesting. They want to be shown the value of what you have to offer. But if I tell you to not think of it like an assignment, that's just going to increase your anxiety about what you think you need to do for a good grade. And then it's going to sound more like an assignment because you're going to try to sound less like an assignment, and then it's going to be kind of like fake. We don't want that. But at the same time, if I make specific details for you about how to make a good vlog or a good podcast that doesn't sound like a class assignment, well, and it's going to be constrained in a way. So I'm not really sure how to get everyone to make these, thinking about the audience that's more than me and the words as being more than a pathway to a grade. I think we're going to have to go outside for this next part, wind or not. How do you guys feel about class outside? I'm not a fan. Don't tell anybody though. But I guess online class, we distribute that question among the entire population. Anybody can have an outside class at any time. It is super nice out here. I'm gonna chew gum. I hope you don't mind. You probably shouldn't do that in your presentation, but I am a professional. What a nice day. Of course, you're taking an online class, so I don't know how often you get to campus or not. But anyway, let's go over some of the things to bring you to the next level of online presentation. And I'm going to do this in a way to show you that if you're intimidated by the digital tools for visual aid, the lower third, all that stuff that the editing software lets you do, there's absolutely no reason to be intimidated. Sometimes a very simple visual aid does a trick. Exordium, the opening of the speech. How come this is so hard? This is one of the things that a lot of people have a lot of trouble with, is you don't think about it as anything except the start. The exordium is when you prepare the audience to listen to you. That is an incredibly complicated thing to do. You have to let them know exactly why you're talking to them and what you're going to do, but you can't just say your topic. This here, this is a huge problem. Why are you doing this? Why is this the first thing you say? Hi, my name is, and my topic is, no, stop doing it. We're done with it. It's over. We're not doing this anymore. Don't do it again. My topic is, you're going to alienate the entire audience. What you do when you say my topic is you give the audience unfair power and advantage over what it is that you're talking about and whether they're going to give you any attention. Think about it like this. When you say, my topic is global warming, my topic is gun control, my topic is whether or not you should sit outside at lunchtime when everybody's noisy and try to record a video for your class. Whatever the topic is, all you're doing is letting the audience decide whether you're interesting or not. You're offering a binary choice. Are you interesting or not? Based on what they already know about your topic. You're not letting them think about what it is that you have to offer, what the value is that you're adding. This is not what you want to do. Everything they've ever heard about your topic before, they're going to use to judge whether they should listen to you. And they're just going to click away. And that's not what you want when you're doing a presentation. That's the opposite of what you want. Instead, you need to give, instead of a binary choice, an open choice. The first things out of your mouth should spark intrigue, question, and wonder of the audience. These things are automatically valued to the audience. If I give them an open choice and I say, what is it that you would like to know? What is it you're wondering about? Let me make you curious. Let me make you wonder. Let me make you think a little bit about the topic that you're presenting. So the next presentation you do in this class, think about, how can I get my audience intrigued? How can I get them to wonder? And how can I get them curious about what I'm talking about? If you can let them think the things that you're saying are wondrous, curious, and intriguing, they're going to listen to you, even if they have strong preconceptions about the topic that you've chosen to do. Don't let a scary topic or controversial topic wave you off from doing the speech. Instead, think about how you can approach it from your point of view, your life experience, and the values you've had to add value to an important conversation. And that's worth listening to. Everybody's got something worth saying on every topic. You just have to be able to communicate it to the audience and let them know that the reason that they should listen to you. We had to go inside because the wind was out of control. Oh yeah, so the problem that I talked about earlier in the office when we were in there before we were disturbed by Mother Nature and other things was this problem the Buddhists call pointing at the moon. This is the problem that when the teacher indicates there's the moon, all the students look at the teacher's finger to see how it's pointing. Instead of apprehending the knowledge and seeing the thing the teacher wants them to see, they're much more interested in how the teacher wants them to do it. Their fidelity is misplaced. Having misplaced fidelity like that isn't really a problem. Actually, it's kind of nice that you would respect the teacher and look to the way the teacher does things. But the problem is you miss out on a lot of knowledge. You miss seeing the moon because you're much more interested in how the teacher's pointing at it. Thinking about this in terms of rhetoric, we could say that people might have much more interest or fidelity to the script they have, the research they've done, the speech they've written, and not whether or not the audience can connect with it. Can the audience connect with the topic? Not do you think that this is good? Is this a good speech? But am I communicating? Am I doing a really good job with the speech, or am I convincing people that I'm right? There are 3 elements that make up a successful speech experience: understanding, caring, and making your audience invested. All 3 are necessary, so we'll go down each one at a time. What does it mean to have understanding? This is a very complex and philosophical question that goes back thousands of years, but for the purposes of rhetoric, you have to make your ideas known and clear to the audience. That means organization. That also means that your evidence has to be recognizable as a valid and good source. That means you need to speak slowly and clearly. And that means you also can't sound like a robot. You're not delivering information to people. You're making understanding with them. You're co-creating something. That's why understanding is vital and probably the first thing that you'll work on when you try to give a successful speech. Then there's caring. What does it mean to care? How do we know when someone cares? This is an emotional response, a feeling. This is where you feel like, oh my God, someone needs to do something, or those poor people, or wow, that makes me really happy. I'd like to share that with someone else. All these are examples of caring, and caring in the terms of empathy and sympathy, is the way the Romans talked about it, and the ancient Greeks, is the idea of emotional investment in the speech, in the topic, and in what you're saying. Being invested. What does it mean to be invested in something? It means you bought into it. This is the same thing as being persuaded or convinced in some way. But I don't really like using the terms persuaded or convinced because these are very hard to meet. But being invested is enough to where someone can say, oh, I agree with you. I'd like to do something about this. I would like to get involved. They might not agree with you 100%, but that's an incredibly high bar for a short speech, especially a speech on the internet where they've probably found your YouTube video looking around for other similar YouTube videos. Okay, so we have these 3 things. Which one's most important, would you say? It's hard to say which one's most important because without all 3 of these, you are sunk. What happens if we take understanding out of the mix and we just have investment and care? That means people are really, really into what you're saying and they're very emotionally triggered by it, but they don't get it. They don't understand the fundamentals. They don't understand the evidence. They don't get the reasoning and motives behind why you're talking about it. Or they don't understand how it works, how it functions, or how it makes itself manifest in the world. They're going to be very, very, very passionate and they're going to really want to do something, but they're not going to know what they're doing. It's going to lead to disaster. If they go out and advocate, they won't be able to answer simple questions about the knowledge behind it. Why don't we take caring out? What if they are invested in it and they understand it, but they just don't care? They're like, oh yeah, you might be right. There might be something good. This is a good thing to do about it. I should learn more about it. And I really understand it, but there's just no passion there. They're not going to push this idea on the top of their list. They're not going to get emotionally into it. They're not going to feel panicked or have a sense of timeliness about it. They're not going to feel a sense of urgency about it. This is the kind of person who might sort of sit at home and read about it and tell their friends about it on Discord or something or on Reddit and not really go out and try to advocate or change people's minds. So the passion is gone from this one. And caring, but not being committed. What does that look like? What does it look like if somebody really understands what you're saying and they're like, oh wow, I care about it? This is when it's like, well, we agree to disagree. I might see the emotional connection and I might understand what you're talking about, but I'm not going to feel motivated to do anything about it. I'm like, wow, that's a really big issue. Someone should do something about that. That was really good evidence, but in the end, it was just a speech. That's also the thing too. They're like, wow, that was really, really powerful, important issue. I'm glad you tackled it in this speech, but that's kind of the end of it. That's all that we're ever going to really do with it. So that's what happens when you have those 2. How do you make sure you have all 3? You have to think about how delivery, research, evidence, and proof, the tone of your voice, the pauses you give, the intensity at which you say your words to people, how do all these things work together? How do they interconnect to create something that people want to get behind and really enjoy watching and enjoy listening to? Well, you have to act like a human being. Particio. These are all in the book, by the way. You know that book that you're supposed to be reading that I haven't given you a quiz on? Particio. Particio is where you say your point. Most of you, since you didn't do this in the Exordium, you have no way of getting people's attention because you've already done this in the Exordium. I'm going to talk about why it's important to eat an orange every day. That's my speech. Okay, here we go. You've already ruined it. The Partitio is where you come in, and after connecting with the audience and telling a story about the world that they resonate with, you're going to ask them to do something. What you have to do in the Partitio is give your thesis, but it's much more complicated than that for next level speaking. You don't just want to say your thesis. You're going to ask the audience to agree with you. What are you going to ask the audience to agree with you about? And how are you going to ask them to agree with you? This is the thesis statement, the what, and the how are your subpoints. Think about the Partitio as asking the audience to do something. What are you asking them to agree with, and how are you asking them to agree with you? Proof. Now, you guys have been doing an excellent job and really killing it with external information, evidence, narrative, stories. A lot of you are just mentioning, I read an article somewhere, or in a newspaper it said, or according to this expert. That's not good enough. You have to say the name of the person, what their expertise is, their degree, and where these remarks that you're quoting came from. Some of you are looking at documentaries, which I think is a great source of information, no problem, but the audience has to be able to evaluate it. How do people determine if evidence is good? The primary way is they want to do it themselves. They don't want to trust anyone. So instead of saying, I read an article with experts that said this and this and this help you prevent a heart attack, say the doctor's name. Say who the person is who wrote the article. And most importantly, say where it was published and how you found it. Looking on Google, I found an article in Men's Health magazine from January 2019 where Dr. Smith said the number one thing you could do is eat 3 avocados an hour to prevent heart disease. Don't do that. It's not real research. Proof has to be transparent and accessible, or the audience isn't going to believe you. If you just say an expert said, or I read this in a magazine, that's not enough. That sounds like lying to most audiences. That sounds like making something up. Oh yeah, I read it somewhere. Oh yeah, my mom said it would be okay if we did that. Sure. I mean, it sounds like lying. It sounds like the way that people have lied their whole lives. You're not going to get anywhere with people with that. Something is true when... Okay, now what are the conditions for something being true for your audience? How do you know that something is true if you're in the position of the audience? Meet this standard and you'll have them. You won't actually have found the truth. You won't actually be true. After all, you're just kind of doing secondary research here. But if you can answer this question and provide what the audience would want and what they would prefer, you are going to be in an excellent place to get them on your side. What are the conditions of truth for your audience? Know them and meet them to the best of your ability with what you can find. The peroration. Your conclusions are not good at all. In fact, they might be worse than your exordiums. The conclusion is what you leave the audience with. They're about to leave you forever. They're probably never going to listen to you or watch the speech again. What are you going to leave them with? And what are you going to have them do next if you've met the 3 conditions? You remember these 3 conditions? Understanding, care, investment. You remember these conditions? If you've done a good job, the audience is going to be feeling very passionate about what you've said. They're going to understand what you've said, and they're going to want to act. They're going to want to know what the next step is. Remind them how they feel. A speech can be 6 or 7 minutes, which to most people is a lifetime these days. An average pop song is like 3.5, 4 minutes. That's not that much time. So if they're feeling invested, and if they're feeling sympathetic and empathetic, and if they get you, if they understand where you're coming from and they get your evidence and they think it's persuasive, then you need to provide something for them to do next. How are you going to do that? You need to sum up. The first things that you're going to offer are a review. What did I ask? And how did I ask? Remind them what it was in that sea of stories, all those different ideas, all those things circling around your topic, all the narratives you told, all the background information you gave, and how you communicated that your speech was going to be valuable. What did I ask you to believe? And how did I do it? Remind them of how persuasive you are. Then the final thing for the speech. What can you do? This can be a very simple thing, like you can go and read this book, or you can go and look up these articles, or you can go to this website to study and learn more. Or it can be more complex. You can call your senator or your representative. You can get more involved in local politics. Here's a political club I know of. Email this person. Here's when the next meeting is. You can get involved in activism or volunteerism in your community. You can talk to a friend about it. Anything goes, but you don't want to miss out on how you've made that audience feel. If you just say, thanks for listening to my speech, have a great day, you have completely hamstrung yourself and what you've done and what you've worked so hard to achieve, which is really quite miraculous. What you have achieved and what you have done is you've brought another human mind, fully capable of making its own decisions, closer to your mind on the perception of the world. Now, let that sink in for a second. That's heavy. And that's something that for 3,000 something years, people all over the world have been writing about and trying to figure out how to do. And if you get anywhere close, you had better be certain that you are going to capitalize on it and get them to move and advance their own ideas and feelings forward about this issue. Incredibly important. Every time I hear somebody in their speech with like, well, I'm done, I hope you enjoyed it, I think of a lost opportunity. Really push, really try to think about what small thing they could do that would just advance the argument, advance thought, and get people thinking about your topic a little more. But it was great chatting with you. I need to make more of these videos. This is actually really kind of fun. Remember, simple visual aids go a long way. Delivery, talk to the camera. Don't talk to other places. Use emotion in your voice. Get your ideas across. Be a human being. You want to communicate emotion, caring, feeling, and substance.